Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. Now, ever since I bought a bottle of soap at either TJ Maxx, Marshalls, or Home Goods, I was looking forward to upcycling this. Let me show you what the label looked like, just in case you're interested. So here's the label, and this was either $4.99 or $5.99, but it was full of soap. So I bought it knowing that eventually I was going to use some Armour Etch cream on it and etch a cute design in it. Now this is 16 ounces. If you're looking for something larger, you could also get what I got off of Amazon. I'm going to use this for my dish soap. We won't do this today, but I wanted to show you just in case you're interested. See how large this one is? I think that's going to be perfect for the dish soap. So in this video, we are going to cut a stencil out using this Upcycle vinyl. I'm going to use my Cricut Joy. I couldn't think of the name for a minute. I'm going to use my Cricut Joy to cut it out because my big Cricut is downstairs at the kitchen table. I have the cutting mat, I have a weeding tool, I have some scissors. When it's time to use the Armour Etch and to put the stencil on, before we do that, we're going to clean the bottle with some 90% rubbing alcohol. I also have a glove to protect my hand. I use a popsicle stick to apply the Armour Etch, and then I have a paper towel. A few other things that I'll use. I'm going to use my tumbler holder, some painter's tape or masking tape, some safety glasses. Now I think these are really important. One of the first times that I used Armour Etch, a little of it flicked up really close to my eyeball. So I like to use these when I'm using Armour Etch. And then I'll also use some transfer tape. So this Armour Etch, I looked up today when I bought this off of Amazon. It was in 2016, and I still have about half of this left. This is a 22-ounce bottle. It's pretty expensive. Right now, I think it was about $44. They also have a 10-ounce bottle and a 2.8-ounce bottle. So I'm going to link those as well as this in the video description below. Let's jump onto the computer. It's just going to take a minute. I want to show you my design as well as a couple others that I did. We'll get it cut out and then we'll get to the meat of this video. Here we are in Cricut Design Space. I'm going to click on New Project, and then I want to go right over here to Upload. We'll click on that, and then I'll say Upload Image. Now I could either drag it to my desktop or I could click the Browse button right here. There's my design, so I'm going to click Open. Now this is an SVG, so all I need to do right now is click Continue and then Upload. It didn't come in the right size. That is not the right size. Let's go ahead and drag it a little bit larger. And one thing I do like about the new Cricut software is when you upload a design, it is very smart and it gives you some other suggestions over here. So if I found something that I like better than what I designed, I could use that instead. For now, I'm going to stick with what I designed. So here's the 3 designs that I made. And I asked my husband, which one do you like the best? Well, he said he couldn't read this one. He said he couldn't really read this one, but he could read this one, so we're going to go with it. The first thing I need to do is go ahead and ungroup those, and then I can just select these 2 and delete them. All right, let's get this to the right size. I want it to be 2.75 inches wide. And let me measure my bottle. 4.58 seems a little bit tall. Let me make sure that'll work. Now that does work, but let me get it down to about 4.5 inches. I don't want to accidentally have it too tall. 4.48, that's close enough. Now this is going to be cut with adhesive vinyl. And with adhesive vinyl, you don't need to mirror your design. So we're going to leave it just like that. Now right now, this is just grouped. Let me go ahead and ungroup it so we can see what layers there are. So I believe we have the soap layer. Let's put it back. And then we have the outside layer. If I wanted to, I could ungroup it even farther. But what I want to do is I want to connect them all together. Because if I don't, let me show you how it's going to cut. I'll say Make. And it puts it the way it thinks you'd want it. And it puts it in an efficient manner. It thinks each one of those things is separate. So let's hit cancel. We're going to select everything in it, and I'm going to go down here to combine and unite. Now unite is pretty much just like weld, except that unite can be undone steps later. I never use weld anymore because the only way you can undo it is to hit the back button. I don't want to do a lot of work and then have to go back, and redo that work. So I just use unite. Now another way you could do that, let's go ahead and hit back. You could select everything and you could say attach. When you use the attach button, it keeps it looking just like it looks on your screen on the cutting mat. So I could say make, and that works just as well. So let's continue going forward with it. Now notice this is not a Cricut Joy mat. This is something for a maker or an explorer. So let's go right up here and see if I can't connect my Cricut Joy. All right, now that we have the Cricut Joy connected, all I need to do is click on Make. I don't need to save it. I do want to move it to the center though, because when you're using Armour Etch, you want to have some vinyl or some tape or something outside of your design to protect the other glass or the rest of the glass. I cut my vinyl down and I left it pretty wide. It's much wider than what I need for my cut. But when you're doing projects where you're using vinyl as a stencil, you want to have excess vinyl out there. That way you can protect the bottle from any Armour Etch that might drip. So let me go ahead and load this in and it should start cutting. Once it's loaded in and it knows there's enough material and it knows that the mat is aligned, all you have to do on your computer is click go. I think etched glass is really subtle, but I also think it's very classy. Before we weed this, let's go ahead and clean the bottle. That way it can have a lot of time to dry. This is 90% rubbing alcohol, and then I just use a paper towel. If it doesn't look super clean when I'm done, that's probably because the inside might still have some soap residue. I mean, I washed it out, but I wasn't super particular about the inside. All right, that looks good. Also, with this bottle, the glass seams are down the side, and I already made sure that my pump could turn. So I don't have to put the pump on, make sure, what direction it's going to face to know where to put my design, because you can twist this. So I can put my design on this anywhere that I want. And so I'll end up putting it right between the two seams. All right, let's let that dry. With a stencil design, you kind of have to be careful when you're weeding it because it can be confusing. You're weeding it backwards to the way you typically weed things. So in this case, I want the word soap and two of these frames to be what I engrave or what I etch. So instead of keeping the word soap, I'll remove them. If what I wanted to etch is the area around soap, and soap would still be clear, then I would weed away the vinyl around soap. But for this today, I want soap to be engraved and I want two of those frames to be engraved. So let's go ahead and get it weeded. Now I'm just going to fast forward through a lot of this because, well, weeding's pretty boring. Now as soon as I said how boring it was going to be to weed this, the inside of my pea came out. Not once, but twice. I lost it one of those times. Eventually I found it, but it wasn't as boring as I wished it would have been. There was a little excitement. So now I have some transfer tape. And so I'm just going to peel the transfer tape up. This is an HTV Runt transfer tape. Then I'm going to lay it back down on my design, and it does need to be a little larger than my design. And then you're going to take something and just kind of scrape it down. You could take a rolling pin, you could take, well, look at that, I have a rhinestone flock dot on there. Imagine that. But you could take anything and just burnish it down. After that, we're going to flip it over. And we're going to remove the back side of the Oracal vinyl. Now this is 631, which means it's a repositionable or a temporary vinyl. If you get the Oracal 651 that's permanent, in my opinion, for this type of thing, it is very hard to use. So I save my permanent vinyl for like outdoor signs, things like that. Okay, so we're just going to peel it back at a harsh angle, and we're going to watch to make sure nothing comes up, because if it does, I'll put it right back down, press on the back of it, and then try again. The only thing I'm concerned about are the centers of those letters. Look at that. They're staying down just fine. Excellent. Now we need to place this down on our bottle. And I thought about it, and I have this little tumbler holder that I made, so I'm going to use it. Now for me, this is the most nerve-wracking part. What I want to do before I lay it down is I want to put down some parchment paper, because the vinyl won't stick to the parchment paper. And I want to see where this should go. Okay. So it looks like this bottom line is going to be just barely above the bottom of the bottle. So I could have actually made this a little bit smaller. Also notice it's a little crooked on my transfer tape, so I don't want to use the line to the transfer tape. Instead, I want to eyeball this, or I could even measure, but I'm not going to measure this. All right, I'm going to have to stand up to do this. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough, so let me try to get this parchment paper out. Now, when you're using etching cream, it is very easy to use on flat surfaces. It's also pretty easy to use on curved if they're just curved one way. So if you think of something like a Christmas ornament that's a ball, if it's curved multiple ways, it becomes very, very difficult. So consider that when you're choosing your item that you want to etch on. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's going to be a little bit crooked, but I'm going to deal with it. So I want to go ahead and really press this down on the glass. And I really pushed it on the size of this. I should have made it shorter because it barely fits on the flat part of the glass. And I think it's actually a little bit on the curve up there. All right, now that I have that done, we have to get off the transfer tape. And this can be the hardest part. If you're new to using Armour Etch, go with a fairly simple design, because if you go with something that has a lot of ornate or small features in it, you might get really frustrated. So go with something that's pretty blocky, pretty easy. Now, before I can put the Armour Etch cream down, I need to find any part of this vinyl that's lifting where the Armour Etch cream will touch. So for example, there's a little bubble there, that's lifting. If there's any gap between the vinyl and the glass, you're going to get it to bleed under that, and you're not going to have a really crisp etch. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that back up, try to get it straightened out, and then lay it back down. And I think this curved edge down here is what's causing me this issue. Now this looks pretty good. I only care about bubbles that are up against where the vinyl meets the glass. It's not perfect, but I think it's going to work out okay. And notice all the issues were because I have this too close to the edge, to the curved edge. Notice up in here there's no issues whatsoever. Bubbles over here, those don't matter. It's just the bubbles where the vinyl meets the glass. Now just to add a little bit more protection, I'm going to tape here and here in case the etching cream oozes over. So I have my popsicle stick, and then here's my Armour Etch cream. Before I started the video, I shook this up and then I opened it over a trash can, because you're going to have little clumps that get dry and then they fall all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and open this over the trash can again. Some people like to apply this with a paintbrush. That's fine. I just like to use a throwaway popsicle. So I dab quite a bit on. And when you're done with this, if you want to, you can scrape up the excess and put it back into the jar. I've had this, like I said, since 2016, so I'm not going to do that today. This is getting quite a few clumps in it, and so it's going to be time to order some new pretty soon. So I'm not too worried about wasting a little bit that I could otherwise save. I think I have it all covered. I'm going to leave this on here for 5 minutes, and during that 5 minutes, you'll probably see me tapping it like this, just kind of moving it around to make sure that every bit of the glass has some against it. Also, because there are some little clumps in there, if those get against the glass, I'm afraid it might not etch as well. So I like to move mine around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead, take this to the bathroom, rinse it off. Hopefully some of the vinyl will stay on. Sometimes when you rinse it off, part of the vinyl comes off. I want to make sure I don't touch any of the exposed glass with this hand because I have etching cream on it. I started losing some of the vinyl, but actually most of it is still stuck on. So let's see how it turned out. So far, it looks really good. All right, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this yet. It is looking good. Now, I think I let some etching cream get under here. I'm so sad. But this part looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to go wash it up, dry it, and show you what it looks like. This is still a little bit wet on the inside, so you can see some water there. Also, this little line here, I checked on that before I did this, and that was actually in the glass. Now this over here, that was a mistake. But look how cute this looks. I really like that. You put some soap in, add the top, and I upcycled something that would otherwise just go in the trash. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until my next video, bye-bye.